Hello, everybody. It's been a while since I put out a video, but we're starting to get a lot of players in the program getting to black belt and beyond, which is fantastic. I'm very happy about that. And so I need to make a little video about what's on the back page of your Take Note book, which is called the AfterBlack. And this is the first of the steps beyond there. And so what you're going to see on this page is a series of three scales. Scales are patterns of notes that go up and down by steps. Step is simply just one note up to the next note, up to the next note. It doesn't jump up a few notes. So on violin, viola, and cello, well, actually, violin and viola in particular, going up a step is a fairly easy thing. It means you're adding a finger, you're adding a finger, you're adding a finger. When you're coming down the scale, which is what you do partway through, you're taking a finger away, you're taking a finger away. And we have certain limitations we have when we are crossing strings. So for example, on the way up, on violin or viola, we're adding the first finger to get the second note, adding the second finger to get the third note, adding the third finger to get the fourth note in the scale. Right? And these are following the same color patterns we've been using before: black, red, green, blue. For the major scale. Then we have to go to the A string and repeat that same pattern: black, red, green, blue. We have the other patterns, the other scales below that have substitutions in them. Instead of using green notes, instead of using the green second finger note for violin or viola, we use the yellow. So this is thinking back to hot cross buns or to tumbleweeds, where we use that second finger in two different positions. If you're on cello, it's a matter of using a different finger. So you'd be either using three fingers to get the green or two fingers to get the yellow, depending on what scale you're on. All the scales still use open D string, then the red for first finger, then the blue, which could be a third finger for violin or viola, or fourth finger for cello. Although those notes stay the same between each scale, so it's just those little changes in the middle. The way the scales are written right now is one beat per note. So if I play the D major scale, it sounds like this, going up and coming down. So here's going up. And then back down. And that would be using the green tapes on the way up and on the way down on both strings. Going to the next scale, which is called the Dorian minor. Minor is sort of the opposite of major, but there's a lot of different kinds of minors. And so we give them some extra names on there. And this uses the yellow on both strings instead of the green on both strings. So as written first in the book, it sounds like this. Then yellow, and back down, then yellow again. Okay, and we don't use green at all, so it's as if it doesn't exist within that scale. And then the third scale is called the mix major. Mix is short for a much longer word, actually, that sounds like, well, it's Greek. It's a Mixolydian. It's a different kind of major scale. But I like using mix because it's shorter, but also it's a mix of the green and the yellow. So it will use the green tape on the D string, but the yellow tapes on the A string. So whatever you do on the way up, you're also doing on the way back down. So this is the D mix major. Here's the green. Now the yellow. Still yellow. Here's the green. Okay. And again, these are the scales, just one beat per note. And I would start with that first, making sure that you can really make a difference between using the green and the yellow. When you do the belt test, you will have it in front of you to help you remember. But it's useful to really make sure that you get those notes first. The second part of the test for this is to add rhythms on each note. And there's 5 rhythms. Actually, well, there's 6 because there's one we just did, which was just the quarter note, 1 beat per note rhythm. But the other ones I call the twinkle rhythms because there's a method of string instruction called the Suzuki method, and you start off by learning to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and you learn with these various rhythms. And the easiest way to learn them is often to put words to them. So the first thing is to think of what the words sound like. Mississippi hot dog, Mississippi hot dog, Mississippi hot dog. We've got 4 very quick notes, and then 2 that aren't nearly as quick, but they're still pretty short. It's not Mississippi hot dog, hot dog, right? Very, very like you would say it very, very clearly if you were speaking in front of a large number of people, and for some reason you decided to say Mississippi hot dog. We'd want to pronounce things very clearly. That rhythm gets done on each note. So it's one full rhythm. Mrs.
Sinicki, please call the office. Mrs. Sinicki.
1 Mississippi hot dog on the first note, 1 Mississippi hot dog on the next note, etc. So if I were doing this, I won't do all of the scales with each rhythm, but if I were to do the D major scale going up using Mississippi hot dog, it would be like this. Mississippi hot dog, 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 Mississippi hot dog. Okay, now that top note is the blue on the A string, and what you will do for me in your bell test is stop on that note, and then I will tell you to do a different rhythm starting on that note and coming back down. So you hold that in place. That it could be 3 fingers if you're a violin or viola player, 4 fingers for cello, and I'll say go to the following rhythm, whatever rhythm. I'm not going to do them in the same order that the book has them because I want you to get used to playing them in different orders. But the next rhythm that is in the book is called 1, 2, wait, 4. 1, 2, wait, 4, 1, 2, wait, 4. Now each of those sounds or syllables or words, if you want to consider it one or the other, they're all equal length. But the word wait is happening where there should be a number 3. And the reason we use wait is because we don't play on it. So we play note, note, wait, note, right? So we just happen to number the other notes so that we can keep track of where we are. So you'll play a total of 3 notes, but in between 2 and 3 is that wait. So I'm going to start on the top note that I had, right, the blue on the A string, and here's how 1, 2, wait, 4 sounds. 1, 2, wait, 4, 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 1, 2, wait, 4. Okay. The next one's called Run Flicka. Flicka is the name of a horse in a children's story. So Run Flicka, Run Flicka. It's a horse. So there's 2 Run Flickas for each one. Run Flicka, Run Flicka. Right. That's one done on all the same note, and then you change to the next one. So I'm going to do the D Dorian minor going up using Run Flicka, Run Flicka. Okay, again, I'm going to keep that note in place because, right now I'm bringing it down, but if I'm performing this, I'm going to keep it in place because I'm going to start on that note, and I'm going to come back down in Lollipop, Lollipop. Now, if you look at the total number of notes, Run Flicka, Run Flicka, there's 6 notes total. Lollipop, Lollipop also has 6 notes, but there's a big difference between them. In Run Flicka, we have a little bit longer note with 2 quicker ones. Longer note, 2 quicker ones. In Lollipop, Lollipop, they're even. Lollipop, 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 Lollipop. So your arm is never stopping anywhere. So it's your fingers that have to coordinate where they're going to change. So it's 2 lollipops on each note. So here's the blue on the A string, and I'm still doing the Dorian minor, so I'm using yellow tapes as I come down for the second finger. Lollipop, 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 Now we don't want to play lollipop, lollipop, and then stop, and then play lollipop, lollipop, and then stop. Right? You can do that when you practice. It's fine when you're practicing, but in a performance, you can't put extra time in. There aren't any rests or anything else like that you get to do that. So you have to get used to changing fingers, changing notes as you are continuing this bow action. So the very last one is almost the same, except now we have an extra note in each pattern. Or instead of two groups of 3, we have 2 groups of 4. And we're back to talking about Mississippi again. So instead of saying Mississippi hot dog, we're doing 2 Mississippis. Mississippi, 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 Mississippi. Okay, and so here's going up on the D mix scale with Mississippi, Mississippi. Okay, again, we want to keep the bow motion going nice and steady. Now the other thing too is you might notice, and if you might need to rewind just to see how I do this to confirm. The faster the notes are, the less bow I use, right? Because longer notes, it's very comfortable. I can use a lot more bow. It gets nice and sound. But when it goes faster, if I'm moving just as much bow, it's much harder to keep up. It's hard to play fast over. Wow, I look crazy on the video doing that. Over a long range. So I use a tiny bow, and this is where a good bow hold comes in handy because I can just move a little bit in my wrist and maybe a little bit in my arm, and I can get quite a lot of sound that way. I can also go quite fast that way too. And that's the trick to playing fast notes. Violins can play really, really super fast, both bowing wise and fingering wise. Once you develop very good technique. Okay, so those are the rhythms. The scales are printed in the book, the 3 scales, and the main thing is to be able to play them without any pauses in between note to note to note, right? You want to practice the scales first to make sure you know which one's coming next, or which note's coming next. Are you using the greens on this one, or the yellows on this string, or whatever it happens to be, and then practicing the rhythms as well. Okay, so again, we have Mississippi hot dog. That's one rhythm. 1, 2, wait, 4. That's another rhythm. Right? Although it looks like 1, 2, wait, 4, right? And that stop in the middle there. Some people would say 1, 2, stop, 4. It's the same idea. And these words, by the way, we just, arbitrary words, just made up something that seemed to fit to make it easier to remember. And then run, flicka, lollipop, lollipop. And then Mississippi, Mississippi. And then, of course, that last rhythm is just simply playing 1 beat per note as written in the book. Okay, hope that helps, and I look forward to seeing those at the next lesson.